So, a technical sales consultant, I'm going to review a little bit about what the job is, what my day, week, month looks, what it meant to me personally, and where I could have gone from there. So, the job is to visit scientists at universities, biotech, and pharma companies. And during those visits, you're having either a sales call or a technical support call, or sometimes a little bit of both. And during those sales calls, it's not about I'm gonna sell you my box of gloves that you can get from 19,000 other vendors with these really sort of slimy sales tactics that I think a lot of us have in the back of our head as being what sales are. But when you work for a scientific company and you're selling a workflow, it's really just about matching our solutions to what and sometimes you're there for technical support. So, depending on the company and depending on how technical the product portfolio is, sometimes it's a hybrid role where you're doing a little bit of both. And sometimes you may be more of the salesperson, and you may have a partner that's more of the technical person. But in many companies, sometimes that's the same person. So, what did my sort of day, week, month look like? I would say about 3 to 4 days a week, I was at a customer site. So when I was a TSE in Philadelphia, I spent about 2 days a week at either UPenn or Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. The other days, I may be at one of the local pharma companies or one of the local biotech companies. And you'd have sit-down meetings, and you talk to the scientists about what products they're using from you, how are they working, what is their end goals, and how you can help them. And one of the things that you wanna ask if you're interested in this and you're looking at a specific company is what's the territory size? Because the territory size is gonna determine really what the travel looks like. If you have a small territory, you may have a large portfolio, but a small territory, so you're not gonna have a ton of travel. I lived outside of Philadelphia. My territory was Philadelphia. I was home every day to see my kids, and that was important to me. You do a lot of sales calls, but you also will go to vendor shows, you'll go to trade shows, and do a lot of different types of activities. So your weeks are very different, which was also really exciting to me. I'm not the type of person who wants to go into an office and have my day be a carbon copy of the day before. It just doesn't work for me. So that's something I knew about myself, and this job worked really well for me. Some other things that were in it for me, I got to travel. I've been to on Milton City Biotech, I've been to Morocco, I've been to Malta, I've been to Barcelona, I've been to France, I've been to Germany, I've been to Amsterdam, I've been all over the place. I do make a fair amount of trips to Germany. I love Germany. That those are things to consider. Lots of flexibility. So I worked through a family expansion. I started at Milton City. My oldest was 6 months old. I had my second child. And right around the time that I had my second child, I went through a 4-year-old ordeal where my husband had cancer 3 times and needed a lot of health care. And I was able to, at this job, continue to work because the days that he had chemo, I sat in a chair next to him and I did my emails and my quotes, and I sat there with my laptop. And as a scientist who would have to come in and feed cells or breed mice, that would have been a lot harder. Having that kind of flexibility ended up really working for me at a very crucial point in my life. I'm not the type of person who wants to sit around and read papers. I've known that about myself. I don't want to write grants. That was never something that was of interest to me, but I do want to hear about the cool things that everybody's working on. And this job allowed me to do that. So, regional sales manager. So, I decided to move into management. It's not for everyone, but I felt like it was the right decision for me. And so, what is the job? So, when I was a regional sales manager, I had a team of technical sales consultants and clinical account managers. They just were basically the same role covering different portfolios. I would interview people, I'd hire people, I would train them, support them, and coach them in their current role and help them to whatever their sort of aspirations were. Where did they wanted to go next? How could I help them get there as their manager? So you set goals, you set strategies for the team to help drive business. You provide feedback both up and down. So feedback up to upper sales management, global marketing, R&D, on things like market trends and competition, and you provide the feedback down to the people on your team. Hey, this is what your strengths are, this is what you did really well, how can we leverage that? Here are maybe some areas that I think you can get stronger, and here's some tools to help you do that. I really enjoyed the role. What did my sort of day, week, month look like? Now I would be in the field, but I would be in the field less, maybe 1 or 2 days in the field, and I'd be with somebody else, helping to support them, to coach them. Could be training, could be a variety of things. A little bit more office time, looking at data, looking at trends, trying to find opportunities, being aware of any concerns, one-on-one calls with the people on my team, one-on-one calls with fellow managers and upper sales management, and doing a lot of like planning of content for sales meetings and things like that. So it was a good mix of a little bit of sales, a little bit of management, and a little bit of forecasting and things like that. For me, what did it mean to me? It was more power. And I will tell you, this is something I've gotten to know about myself is I do like to be in control, and I do the power to make decisions and to empower others to make decisions. I had even greater flexibility because now I was less reliant on the scientists and there was a more internal. So as you move through the chain within a company, at least in the sales world, where at the individual contributor level, you're interacting mostly with the public. As you move into management, now there's that split between external and internal interactions, and even greater learning because managing people is a lifelong skill that you will need no matter what you do. I remember my postdoc advisor, she sat down with me and she said, "It's so crazy. You do all these things in science and then you get your own lab and you have all these people, but never along the way did they teach you how to manage them." And it's true in academics, every PI kind of just makes it up as they go along, right? Because there has been no playbook for them on this is how you manage people. And you get that in industry, you get a playbook and you learn how to manage people. And the short version, it's a lot like parenting. So anyone who has kids out there, managing people is a little bit like parenting. So where could I have gone from there? I did have the same options as before, but now as like a management level of people. And as I mentioned, it's a skill set I think that's really important. That you, if you're going to move forward really in a lot of different roles, at some point you're going to be in charge of another person's career. And so that's a really serious commitment, and you should have the skill sets to be able to handle that. So next slide. So in 2020, I became the sales director for North America. So what is the job? So now I manage managers and they manage the individual contributors. So again, this time it's still a lot of interviewing, hiring, training, and supporting, but now it's my team of managers. And now the goals and the strategies that I set are more for the company and how we're going to drive revenue, how we're going to reduce spend, how we're going to resource plan for long-term success. There's a little bit more of a larger umbrella impact. What does my time look like? Constantly problem solving. So now I get brought into situation and the barn is already on fire. And they're like, how do we put this out? Where sometimes when you're a manager, you say, oh, I think the barn might be smoking. I might need some help. And so now I'm brought in when there is a problem and I'm relied on to be creative to figure out how I'm going to solve that problem. Tons of collaboration, so much collaboration, internal mostly, but external as well. I'm working with the leaders in all the other aspects of our organization. So how can we work better together? A phrase you hear a lot in industry is, well, our company is silos, right? We all, marketing is one silo, sales is one silo, finance is one silo. And so it's up to the leaders of the company to break down those silos and to work together so that they can both be more successful. And so I do a lot of collaboration and I have lots of meetings. That's just how it has evolved. But what does it mean to me? So I have the power. With the power comes a lot of responsibility. So in this role, I've had anywhere between 40 to 65 people who roll up to me. So their careers really rely on my decision making. I determine what their salaries are. I determine what their raises are. I determined what their goals are going to be. And that's a lot of responsibility. I take it very seriously. I manage managers, and that's really a lot harder than managing individual people. When you're managing individual contributors, you can be a little bit more directive and say, okay, I need you to go do this. When you're managing managers, the people have gotten to this stage because they've shown that they're real assets to the company and their ideas are sound and their style is sound, and you have to allow them the freedom to manage the way that they want to manage their team. but yet you still need to lead them. So there's a lot more leading by influence, and it's a little bit more challenging. I think of being a regional manager as parenting a kid, and being a sales director, it's now managing people who are also adults, right? We're all at the same level where we have a lot to contribute, but our ideas may be different. I may come at it from this direction and someone else may come at it from this direction, and we have to figure out how to make both of us happy and successful. And so what are some of the things that I've been thinking about where I can go from here? A lot of people will move to the VP level, right? They'll become the VP of sales or VP of sales and marketing. People will go into consulting. But as you move up, if you think of it as a ladder, which I try to get away from, think of it more of as a spider web. But if you think of it as a ladder, as you get higher up, the number of jobs gets smaller. You do want to think about that when you're starting, but if you have a plan, but allow yourself to move with that plan as your life changes and your interests change, I think that you'll end up being really happy and end up in a place where you have a future career path. Next slide. So again, just to summarize, had the plan. I wanted to be a neuroscientist for a while. Then I wanted to be a forensic scientist. Then I wanted to be in industry science. And now I'm the sales director of Mill City Biotech. My map doesn't quite look like Colin's. I think it's even more squiggly all over the place. But one job led to the next, which led to the next. Really know yourself. I really like science, but I didn't want to be doing it every day anymore. I didn't want to be coming in on weekends to feed cells. I didn't want to be breeding mice. I didn't want to be doing a Western blot for the 500th time and changing one little variable to see if I get a better band. I was a little tired of that. And I know that I like to be in charge. I've always liked to be in charge, whether it was in grade school on the playground or where I am at Mill City Biotech. I want to be part of that decision-making process on where the company is going. Always network, and it's never too late to start. If you think you have a weak network now, then start tomorrow, right? And start talking to other PIs in other departments, start talking to other postdocs and other grad students. See if you can get to go to a retreat or a meeting and talk to as many people as possible.